What's going on, guys? This is the True Red Politician back here with another video, and today's topic we're going to be discussing the overall disaster this Supreme Court decision was for the Democrats, and overall, even the future, but also this midterm, and just how bad it is, and how much they're coping about their House chances now. Because I said, or at least I believed, even though we really didn't talk about the House very much, I was basically kind of putting that off for a while because I want to see if the Section 2 of the VRA would be gutted, which I turned out to be correct. Um, Even kind of those, wishy-washy conservatives on the court were in favor of gutting it. And they basically did. I mean, they didn't completely gut it, but they basically neutered it to the point that's like, yeah, like a lot of these southern states, even Texas again, even Missouri, that's not shown here, could redraw their maps even more. But yeah, just like this is just a kind of a doomsday scenario for the Democrats here, and yeah, and they're not happy. And there's the amount of copium and whining that I've been seeing online is just honestly funny. It's like you would think it's satire. It's just like just pure just lefty rage, which is very enjoyable to see because again, they are the worst offenders. Again, they drew first blood. They could cry, they can cope, but they're the worst offenders of this. And this is what the New York Times is showing is just a hypothetical of what could happen if the Republicans decide to kind of go scorch earth. And I believe this map will actually probably hold up. And we're going to get to the House right now. And as you can see, and by the way, this is taking into account Florida's new 4 Republican House seats. And since the state Supreme Court struck down the Attorney General with Jay Jones, the crazy Democrat who say, "Oh, I was going to murder Republican children" or whatever, or love to see their children die or whatever. It's just mentally ill. The state Supreme Court struck it down, or not the map, but the because again, they try to like push like this referendum through, use weird language in the states and violate the state constitution multiple times. Then the state Supreme Court stepped in, and now the Attorney General tried to push like a basically try to say like, oh, can you please put the map in while you're figuring out legally, and the state Supreme Court said no. And I think it's either a 50-50 whether or not the Supreme Court strikes down this map. It is like kind of a 50-50. But as you can see, Republicans out the gate are at 213 to 208. And this is not taking into account the VRA, gutting a lot of these House seats. Because again, you have states. And there is a real possibility of Section 2. I think for some of the southern states, it is too late. Again, I think like South Carolina potentially, and even Mississippi and Georgia, which is funny because we'll get it here in a second, but it's like Georgia, because Louisiana, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, and South Carolina, they expressed interest of doing it, but like Brian Kemp for some reason, even though he probably could, and I know the primary is going on, but for some reason he's kind of just dragging his feet on redistricting before the midterms, even though he probably could do it. I know he's kind of a rhino, but still, it's kind of a problem. But except for Georgia and maybe South Carolina, because again, the state legislature, they want to do it. The only reason South Carolina, at least as of recording of today and May 2nd, the only reason why they're not doing is because the state Senate Majority Leader is just being weak. He's like, "Oh, we can't do it," or some ridiculous reason. It's like it's just a whole rhino problem. I do think we could crack him because there's people in the state legislature. The governor wants to do it, so I think he'll probably cave. And it's one seat anyway, but still, every seat counts. But we're just gonna fill out the map, and again, we're just gonna assume that Virginia, just for the sake of argument, does not get struck. It does get struck down, and we keep on 3 safe Republican seats in one toss up in the Virginia second. Let's just say for argument's sake, we do hold on. And let's say for argument's sake as well, Alabama, loses not just one, but both of those seats. Let's say this Alabama loses both. And can I select the color? Where's that? Okay, there it is. Okay, so we're just gonna say for safe argument, Alabama loses both. Just for argument's sake. And let's say Louisiana does too. Alabama might just do one. And same thing for Louisiana, but let's just say for the sake of the video of the potential. And as you can see, and again, this takes into account Virginia's map not being struck down. The gerrymander there. And as you can see, is absolutely insane how bad this is. And then again, boom, Republicans are at 218. Now, this is obviously if Republicans kind of go scorch earth in the Deep South, which they possibly could. Also, I heard rumors that, Illinois is trying to redraw, but their deadline, I believe, is on May 3rd, literally a day from now. And if they probably could, they can maybe squeeze out another Republican or two, even though it's a 14-3 map. This is insane, but I don't think Illinois is going to be able to do it in time. I heard New Jersey in the last few hours wants to redraw their map, but here's the issue: they have to go through like constitutional referendums, and if they do, they probably get rid of Tom King's the 7th and the 2nd, and they have like a 13-1 map potentially, maybe like a 12-2, so it'd be not gain of 1 or 2. Then yeah, go to Mississippi, which they express of doing as well. So yeah, not looking so hot, and Republicans are at basically their current majority. And this is, and again, we're just gonna leave Georgia alone because I don't think Georgia's gonna do it before the midterms. I think before 28. Again, right now the map is 9-3. This rural district and 4 in Atlanta. They might do like 11-3 maybe. Oh, and also one from Tennessee. I completely forgot Tennessee. They're doing it because again, Alabama, they called a special session, I believe, for May 4th or May 5th. They're going to call a special session to redistrict their map. I believe Tennessee called a special session, I believe, in the same time as Alabama, the 7th, and not the 7th, because there's a Missouri House seats, and Tennessee's 9th, and they're going to redraw that, I believe, on the 4th or 5th. So boom, you're at 220. And again, this is before you even win any toss-up House seats, by the way, which I think Republicans are probably going to do it. Like Iowa's 3rd, probably going to hold on to that. So you can see just Republicans, before they even hold on to any toss-ups, they're basically at their current majority. And again, if you add like Ohio's 9th, potentially narrowly going Republican. You talk about maybe one of these, maybe Pennsylvania's 8th might hold on, or maybe the 7th even. Republicans are going to be in the driver's seat, and again, this is taking into account that like Georgia not redrawing, and maybe potentially Utah. And some people might see this as like weird, like, oh, Utah, I thought it's over. Well, here's the thing: the state legislator in Utah, Republicans in Utah are trying to see if they could overturn that Democrat vote sink in Salt Lake City because they stacked the Supreme Court. Yeah, I know Republicans actually having some balls. Utah is a weird state. It's like they're a freckless rhino state, and also they do things like this where they stack the Supreme Court and actually shows some grit. It's honestly astonishing. But they're going to have 7 justices on the court instead of 5, and 2 of them are going to be conservative, and they could potentially overturn that Salt Lake House seat. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to do that in time. Some people will say, oh, it doesn't matter. It's going, it doesn't matter. It's going blue anyway. But the thing is, a lot of like the voters in Salt Lake, like, yes, California transplants are moving in, but here's the thing. They vote Republican more down ballot. They have like kind of a if about Trump. Like they love Romney, but like they like their more establishment Republicans. They don't like Trump very much. And they vote more Republican way more down ballot. That's why you see in 2024, you seen a bit of a ticket split where they voted for Harris, but down ballot they kind of voted for your kind of squishy rhino Republicans. So I think, again, at best, they could try. They might not do it in time, but again, I would hope they could do it, because at that point, if the Virginia map gets overturned in California, they just only have a net gain of 5, and Utah gets overturned. Well, it's just only a net gain of 5. I mean, it's really nothing. And at that point, yeah, the midterms are over. I wouldn't say over. but it's going to be extremely hard. And again, I know the economy's kind of meh and things are not going so well in terms of economic news. But besides economic news, there's a lot of wins that Donald Trump could tout about, and he's going to be campaigning like he did in 2024 with other Republicans. He's going to energize voters. His approval rating is kind of meh right now as well. It's like 42%. But if he reminds people of his wins and this Iran war gets wrapped up by, early June or late May, which it probably will be, and gas prices go back down to $3.30 per gallon, and he touts his wins, his approval rating would probably be in like the mid 40s at worst. And not to mention, Republicans have a lot of money. They have, like, the RNC has $800 million and compared to Democrats $200 million, and they're still kind of in debt from 24. There's a lot of potential on the table. Not to mention, the southern states, for the most part, are growing teeth. Even though they kind of dragged their feet at first, they're willing to do so. And again, there's a lot of potential on the table. The midterms are far from over. And again, this is why I'm sick and tired of seeing the dooming, the glooming. Oh, the midterms are over. And it's like Democrats cannot poll above 5% to save their lives. And you're sitting here thinking of a 20-team blue wave. Like, get over yourself. Like, show up, vote red. And again, I don't see this massive blue wave. Like, they barely flip North Carolina, and they barely flip the House by like a dozen seats. Wow, what a massive wave. 2018 all over again when they thought the Senate was in play, and like, you're going to see a blue Texas. Give me a break. But again, it's like New Jersey, and again, just like if you say like New Jersey, let's say for argument's sake that like New Jersey draws out like a Republican, just for argument's sake, because it could be they could find a way to possibly do two Republicans, but for argument's sake, let's say they just get rid of that one, and let's say for argument's sake, Virginia's map gets upheld, and they do allow that map, that egregious map, by the way. I mean, it's insane they get away with that. Let's say they just do. And again, this is, by the way, they're not wanting any toss-ups, but let's say just argument's sake they do. Okay, Republicans are still at 215 House seats, and Democrats are still at 206. And it's like they're claiming of this massive blue wave if this happens. It's like, okay, like worst case scenario, Republicans are at like 210 to 12 at worst case scenario. And again, this is giving them basically all their seats. Let's say if the Republicans just, let's say they just only do like one seat in each state, and Alabama, Louisiana, they're still at 212, and Democrats are at 209. So yeah, the midterms are far from over. And again, the only state that could really retaliate is possibly Virginia if that map doesn't get overturned, and possibly New Jersey. And as you can see, that's barely enough. Like, they're fighting tooth and nail. So yeah, this is such devastating effects for the Democrats, and and again, the maps will probably go through in time before the midterms. And yeah, this is kind of doomsday, because the House is on a knife's edge, but was probably going to go blue. Now, I might get a little ahead of myself. This might age very poorly, but as long as there isn't an economic recession, I think Republicans are in the driver's seat to hold on to the House. And I think it's like a 60% chance to hold on to the House. You're slightly favored, not overwhelmingly. But again, just looking at this map, it's like, yeah, even in a favorable scenario, Democrats are going to be fighting for their lives to hold on to the House. So anyways, guys, this is the True Red Politician signing off. Please like, comment, subscribe. Later.